Welcome to Jazz Piano Daily 146. Today we're going to talk about how to turn scales into actual improvisation. All right, so taking a look at the music, first of all, you'll notice that we have our G major scale. We're going to focus on our G major scale for right now. These techniques can be utilized on any scale, but it's best to start on the major scale first. I didn't start with C because we're always doing C. So let's do a different scale, so we're doing the G major scale instead. All right, so the first thing that you have to learn is the actual scale, right? So if you want to actually turn scales into improvisation, you have to actually know the scale first. So that means that you can go through and really play that G major scale. Right? You should be able to play it, you should know the notes of it, you should feel comfortable with it. All right, so once you can do that, then notice what I'm doing here is I am changing the scale into blocks. And what I'm doing is I am doing two blocks. I'm doing an A block and I am doing a B block. Okay, so let's talk about what that means. So the block is just taking the scale and you could put it into a 3-note block, a 4-note block, a 5-note block. Here I'm using a 5-note block, right? And all it is a smaller set of notes from the scale, okay? So rather than playing the full scale, I'm just using 5 notes. Why 5 notes? Because I have 5 fingers, right? So with 5 fingers, I could play the first 5 notes of the scale easily enough, just like this. Now you might think, okay, well the next block would be that. Well, no, I don't have to do that block. I could end with my pinky on the G, and I could start the next block on C. This is just an example. I could do that as a block, I could do this as a block, I could do that as a block. You know, obviously I'm already doing that one, okay? But these are the 2 blocks that we're going to focus on right now, block A and block B. Quite frankly, doesn't matter. You want to call it block 1, block 2, block 3, block 4. Fine. You want to call it block A, block B, block C, 1-2. It don't matter. The only thing that matters is that you're focusing on blocks. All right, Willie, I get it. Blocks, blocks, blocks. Why blocks? Because the blocks are preventing you from doing the cross. The cross is where you usually probably mess up when it comes to your improvisation, okay? And what I mean by that is if you're new to improv and you're new to scales and you're new to trying to play and improvise around these scales, when you have to cross over and you're dealing with your fingering issues, the fingering issues are going to be a gotcha, right? And they're going to be the thing that is going to give you that slightest pause in your improvisation and then make it all fall apart. So you stay with the block, first of all. And now what I have here is I have a very simple progression. G major, E minor, A minor, D7. Just playing real simple shells. Root 7, root 3, root 7, root 3. Okay? And I'm going to start with that first block, the A block. And now I could get into this and just freely improvise with it. Right? I'm going to show you in a second how to create lines using each of the blocks. But I would suggest try getting in and just freely improvising around. See what it sounds like. All right, now, first of all, we're not blowing off the doors on any improvisation here, okay? You're probably not going to win a Grammy based on this improvisation. That's not what this is about. This is about trying to create some organization in your improvisation so that you can learn to improvise more efficiently and more effectively, right? So now that we have the block, well, what do? You create a line utilizing the block. And what you'll notice is that I've created a line here with each block. Let's start with this first block, okay? And in fact, I'm just going to change the name of this to using block A. And this is using block B. All right, so all of these notes in this line that I have here, all of these notes are all part of that block A. That's it. And again, when I wrote out this block A, I wrote, right, and then block B. just note, it's all a block, right? So it's those 5 notes, right? You don't have to play it in that particular rhythm or even in this order. So I'm taking these 5 notes right here, and I'm creating a line over this progression of 4 chords. So I got what? Okay. Now you'll notice here that, lo and behold, what am I doing here? So I got D there, B there, G here, and C there. And what you will notice is that, well, guess what? 3rd of the G chord, 5th of the E chord, 7th of the A, 7th of the D. See how it's chord tones, right? So I am now starting to organize that line a little bit more so that now I'm bringing in my chord tones. So rather than just randomly, playing notes, no, now I'm starting to think about it a little bit more and try and hit those target notes. We've talked about target notes before in Jazz Piano Daily, but basically what we're doing here is we're trying to target our chord tones when we hit the chord. So when we hit the G chord, we want to try and hit one of these chord tones. Is it an absolute requirement? Of course not, but it just makes your improvisation sound a little bit better. Listen to what happens if I don't do that. Right? You hear how I'm hitting that C, right? And it just doesn't sound great, okay? It doesn't sound awful, but it certainly doesn't sound great, right? And it's because that C is not a chord tone for my G major 7th chord. So I'm not creating that solidifying sound in my improv. Whereas if I play B, D, or G, now I'm starting to hit those chord tones when the chord hits, and it makes the improvisation just sound just a little bit better. Again, this is improvising just using the G major scale. So, you have to temper your expectations of, all of that gets into some chromaticism and other scales and stuff like that, and you will get there, but you got to start with this first, right? Or at least I suggest you start here first. I have found that students find the most success by starting with these blocks first. All right, so let's play this again. And then using block B, here's block B. Now, little quiz time for you. Take a look at this line right here. So the first line and the second line. And what I want you to tell me is, what is the same between both lines? You can go and pause the video if you want to and think about it, right? Because I'm going to give the answer right now. It's the rhythm. Notice how I kept the rhythm exactly the same. Why did I do that? Because rather than trying to come up with a brand new rhythm, all I did was keep the rhythm was fine, and just change the notes around. So when I'm trying to create these licks and I'm trying to make a scale start to sound like improvisation, and I'm trying to create my lines, I don't have to do a bunch of heavy lifting and always be doing new rhythms, right? Start with something set, write out some new notes for it, practice that, and then as you get better at it, you'll start to naturally change those rhythms. All right, so anyway, what I would suggest doing is go into your iReal Pro and then just play along with it, right? Play each line and then just go freely from there. So the block A, block B, freely, block B, Now, could I do that as a block? Sure. Could I do my rootless chords down there? Sure. Now, as I start to play the whole scale and have to cross, that's where, like I said at the beginning of the lesson here, that's where a lot of students usually have difficulties with that cross, with the fingering. So this is why you do the blocks, all right? You get the scale down, you kind of really know the notes of the scale, you practice it in each of those blocks, and then once you feel comfortable with those blocks, then, well, have at it, right? Just go ahead and see how much you can improvise just utilizing the whole scale. But you can always come back to the blocks, right, to create some structure into your improvisation. The blocks also work really well when you get into a situation like this. That was at 110. Now let's bump this up to 250. Because when you have to cross and the fingering, when you're playing at an up tempo like that, it's a lot easier to stay in that 5-finger position. Why? Because you got the 5 fingers right there. So this is what you get with those blocks. You're able to keep that 5-finger position. All right, so anyway, have fun with that, and I'll see you all in the next lesson. To get the first 45 pages of music for free, just go back to jazzpianodaily.com. If you liked the video, please be sure to click the like button and also subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. To watch the rest of the lessons in this series, just click on the playlist to the right of this arrow. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you in the next video.